Hi, good morning, and thank you for joining. For some of you, it might be early morning. Yeah, let's get started. Let me share the screen. So we started yesterday discussion on synchronization, and we had a lot of discussion about a simple code which is shown on this slide, where there are no specific synchronization primitives or synchronization functions which we have used. Um, it is just a while loop or two while loops in different threads, and they are executing different parts of the code, and they are trying to ensure something. In this case, it does ensure mutual exclusion of S1 and S2, but it also has some side effects. Right? So those side effects we would like to avoid, at least the negative side effects, and therefore we would like to see better protocols towards implementing mutual exclusion. Okay, so let's continue from here. Uh, let's do one simple exercise. What we want to do is that we are given roll numbers and marks of, let's say, 80 students or 100 students in our class, and we want to assign grades to them. And the criteria is, let's say, absolute grading, s equal to 90, etc. Um, and as far as this classwork is concerned, we will not give any W grades. So we have an input array of roll numbers, another input array of marks corresponding to those. Uh, and then we have output array of the same size, which should contain a character which signifies the grade of that particular student. So can people write down quickly in their copies or online the code corresponding to this? I'll disable the chat for some time because I want everybody to try out individually. Okay, I'm enabling the chat now. In case somebody has written down relevant piece of code, please feel free to paste it in the chat box. Okay, Aditya has written. Okay. Mhm. Okay, that sounds good. Anybody sees any issues with Aditya's code? Anybody else has it in the code? Okay. So one thing to note here is that this is a completely parallel operation. There is no real synchronization that we require in this code, and therefore different threads can operate on different roll numbers and compute the grades very easily, nicely in parallel. This is a nice data parallel operation. Right? We want to augment this grading in slightly different way. What we want to do is something slightly more than this. And what is that? What we want to do is to compute a histogram. And what does that mean? That for each grade, we want to find out the number of students who have gotten a particular grade, which means the number of students who have gotten U, E, D, C, etc. So can you now augment this code to compute such a histogram? So assume that you have already computed this. Either you can assume that you have already computed these grades for individual students, or directly you are computing those counters. And people spend time on that. Please try this out. Even if you are not pasting it in the chat box, I would assume that you are spending time in writing the code somewhere. It's important. These classworks are part of the class, as we know that this is 3 lecture hours plus 1 tutorial hour, and tutorial hours are included within these lecture hours.
Sir, just one question. Sir,
Yeah.
why is roll number important here?
I need to know whom I have given the marks. No. No, it's
from an
not.
array point of view, it is not important.
Yeah. So from the perspective of kind of this particular program, it's not important. It's more from a general application perspective. Okay. So in computing this histogram, if somebody is facing any issues, please discuss that too.
Sir?
Yeah, Venkat.
Sir, in computing this histogram, if I'm maintaining a counter for each grade, then I'll have to have some sort of synchronization required between the threads while incrementing the counter, right? Because it's a it's a shared variable and race condition might be there.
Sure, that is correct. Yes. Shira has also Shira has a question. Each histogram is a shared variable, right? So each, I mean, this is a complete histogram, but yeah, each of these counters that we are projecting into this plot that I'm showing. So we could have, let's say, hundreds of students, and then we have these 7 grades. And if we have 100 threads operating on different data items, operating on different marks, and you have 7 counters to be updated, that does mean that, according to pigeonhole principle, that at least one grade or at least one counter will have more than one number of threads. And that does indicate that there could be a possibility of a data race. Why would there be a data race? Because both of them are writing. Not only writing, one of them could, I mean, each of them is also reading the value. We are most probably doing counter equal to counter plus 1 for that particular grade. And therefore, therefore there is a data race, and therefore we require some sort of synchronization. And this again boils down to, okay, Aditya has written the code using atomic add. This seems to be the correct code. This seems to be fine. So we have not studied atomic add. So Aditya is a little ahead of us, but let's hold on to it. This code seems to be correct. We can get the histogram using this. So in this case, just for everybody's benefit, this ampersand bins of 0 or ampersand, I mean, bins is the counter array, which is going to store the number of elements per grade, number of students who have received a particular grade. 0 means S, 1 means A, and so on. And that particular counter we are incrementing. and that needs to be done using some synchronization. In this case, we can use a synchronization primitive called atomic add, which is going to add 1 to this particular counter. And even if multiple threads are operating on it, it is guaranteed that this addition happens, that is reading the value of bins of I, incrementing the value, and writing it back to bins of I. These three statements are executed atomically. That is, there is no intervening atomic add while this is being done. So this guarantee is given by this atomic add, which we are going to study. There are different variations of these atomics. So that is one way. The second important aspect of Aditya's code is this sync threads. So Aditya, why did you add that sync threads here? Okay, so Aditya is saying that he wants to wait for all the grades to be computed first, which means that the previous if else needs to be over for all the threads before it goes ahead. While that is okay, it's not really required from the perspective of this particular code. It will still work without that. So G of ID for one thread might happen first, and then that thread might go ahead with the atomic instruction, whereas the other thread might still be updating G of ID of some other some other roll number. So that is still okay, and it will not create any problem. Yeah, so these were the two synchronization points. Yeah, these were the two synchronization points which we discussed about Aditya's code. But the important part here at this stage is to realize that because there is a data race, we need to worry about synchronization, even in this simple exercise of incrementing a counter by multiple threads, right?
Sir?
Okay. Yeah.
So in this code, like when we're using atomic add, like it's just a performance related doubt. So if I'm maintaining a counter, rather than doing an atomic add, if I have a lock on each variable, it would be more efficient than this, right? Because it locks also use some compare and set kind of instruction which takes the bus control, and it's costly. And so atomic add, if all the threads are doing atomic add simultaneously, won't it make it kind of sequential, because all of them are trying to take the bus control at same time and only one of them will be getting, even if they're writing to different data elements?
Okay, so I'll answer that by asking a question. If we are using lock instead of an atomic instruction, will that cause serialization of the code?
Sir, so in the case of a lock, they'll be accessing different locks, right? So it's not like all the 100 threads for 100 students. They won't be. I'm a little confused in this aspect. Like, if they're taking control of the bus, even sir, so if they're writing to different variables which are being done atomically, will two threads, if they're doing it at the same time, will they be able to take control of the bus and write to different variables, or only one of them will be able to write?
Okay, so locks is also a primitive which is known from the students who have probably studied the operating system. In this case, we need the number of locks equal to the number of shared memory locations. That means that we do need, let's say, 7 of these locks to be taken by different threads. So whenever I'm updating bins of I need to take lock of I. How is lock implemented? As Venkat suggested, it internally uses some sort of test and set or compare and swap instruction and so on. There are multiple different primitives using which this can be implemented. And all of these primitives, very importantly, are atomic instructions. And what we have, this atomic add, is also a variant of atomic. In fact, atomic add can also be implemented using atomic cast and atomic test and set. What that indicates is that atomic instruction is at a lower level than a lock, which means that the atomics are used in implementing the lock and unlock related implementations. So from that perspective, you can view atomic instruction as a simple critical section. And we are going to study all of this, but since this has come up, I'll just mention. From that perspective, the cost of atomic instruction is slightly lesser compared to a little bit of bookkeeping that you might require, a little bit of do while that you might require for a lock implementation. And therefore, in both the cases, you are going to have some waiting time. It so happens that a lock is a slightly heavyweight and it has slightly different semantics. For example, the lock needs to block. Unless you have the access available, the lock implementation is not going to go to the critical section. In case of atomic add, this is non-blocking, which means that it does wait for some time, but there is a bounded wait which you can guarantee because there is no blocking really happening. As soon as atomic add some thread gets access to that particular common memory location, it goes ahead, updates it, and releases that particular memory location for some other thread which might be wanting to write there. And therefore, atomics are non-blocking, whereas locks are blocking. And therefore, there is a bounded wait whenever we use atomics. So from that perspective, with respect to synchronization cost, it's going to be almost the same in this particular case. But in general, locks are more generic in nature. Not everything can be converted from locks to atomics, but from everything can be converted from atomics to locks. So yeah, from that perspective, I would say that the cost is going to be almost the same in this case. There is a small bookkeeping which the locks will have additional cost, but as far as the actual core synchronization is concerned, that is going to be almost the same in both these cases.
Sir?
Yeah, Venkat.
Sir, so I have a doubt in. So if I have two shared memory locations and I'm doing an atomic add in both of them parallelly, like two threads are doing it separately. So if writing to one of them takes X time, the total code that I'm running, it's 2X time, right? Because they can't happen parallelly.
Okay, so that is almost true. In fact, it might take slightly more than 2x because of some added cost between the synchronization. If you execute them sequentially, then it is, completely sequentially from the code perspective, then it is going to take 2x cost. But if it is coordinated, then the hardware is going to make the second write wait for that memory location, the second atomic, while the first atomic is executing, and then take up this one. So this waiting happens, there is some sort of very small hardware queue which gets maintained for all the atomics that are happening to the same memory location. And therefore, the cost of maintaining this small queue is going to be little high, and therefore the cost is going to be slightly higher than 2x.
Sir, so like in this case also we're using 100 atomics together, right? So it doesn't look like it's giving us any performance advantage because they're all happening at 100x time, right? Or more.
Okay, so we should also understand that there is a conflict. What we also need to understand is that the cost of the atomic is going to come into play only when there are two threads which are accessing the same memory location. For example, I said that for as far as lock is concerned, we need to have 7 locks with us because there are 7 common memory locations, 7 counters. If one thread is updating counter of S grade, another is updating counter of D grade, then these two are different memory locations, different counters, and therefore the locking cost does not affect each other. In a similar manner, the atomic cost is going to be different, is not going to affect each other if the atomic is on 2 different memory locations.
Sir?
Okay. Okay, looks like I had lost the connection for a while. Was my sound audible for some time? Something you missed?
No, sir, it cut off for a while.
Okay. So I was just mentioning that since these are different counters, we need to be careful about, so if these are different counters, then the atomic cost is not going to be creating any problem because these are different memory locations. Only when two threads are accessing the same common memory location, then only the atomic cost comes into play. Then only there is sequentialization. Otherwise, it is all executing in completely parallel manner. So it is the amount of concurrency, assuming that the grades are distributed in uniform manner, not in the skewed manner as I have shown on the slide. It's going to be 100 by 7 threads are going to be writing to the same memory location. And that is what is going to happen in a log-based implementation as well. Does that seem reasonable, Venkat?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So always remember everyone that the atomics per se are not bad, or even locks per se are not bad. Only when you have multiple threads simultaneously accessing the common memory location, that is when the coordination cost comes into play. Otherwise, the cost is not too much, in the sense that I have a lot of locks in my code, but if it so happens that all the threads are executing in such a manner that this lock and unlock is happening at different times for different threads, then the cost of that locking and unlocking does not affect my overall execution time. Right? So although we cannot guarantee that this is happening, and even if sometimes there is a conflict, it is okay. But the issue comes in when you have many threads taking the lock or many threads executing the atomic on the same lock or on the same memory location at the same time. Then only this cost increases, and the cost doesn't increase linearly, unfortunately. The cost might increase maybe something more than that, could be quadratic in nature. In fact, it is related to the number of simultaneous threads which are trying to access the same memory location. Some function of that. All right. So this was again one of the kind of motivations to get into other synchronization requirements, and we'll take one more a little complicated example, which we have, I think, sometime discussed, but let's discuss it a little more carefully. So we want to compute shortest paths in parallel. So we are given an input graph, let's say input graph of, let's say, India, and we want to compute the shortest path from Nagpur, a city in Maharashtra, to every other city in the country, right? So why Nagpur for that matter? Maybe it is center of India. Okay. Your city. Okay. Yeah, so I belong to Nagpur, but there is that is not the real reason. So there is a more geographic reason why this is the case, and it's not at the central part of India. It's actually the official geographic center of India is in Nagpur, which means that there is a notion of 0 mile, and there is a place inside Nagpur where that 0 mile is situated near a petrol pump. And from there, the official center of India exists, and the distances are measured from there in different directions. And therefore, because of this official reason, I thought that we'll take Nagpur as the center, and we want to compute shortest paths from Nagpur to different cities in the country. So we are given some sort of graph library which implements these different routines. For example, if I'm required that give me all the immediate connections of Nagpur, right? So let's say I'm talking about roads or a train network, then I need to know which cities are connected. And from there, I'm going to compute the shortest path. It is not going to be a Euclidean distance, right, on the map. And so such routines are available with me. And each thread is operating on a vertex. That means each thread, let's assume, is operating on a city or a junction, whichever we have in our map. And it Each thread then settles distances. What this means, settling of distances, is essentially in the context of let's say Bellman-Ford style or Dijkstra's algorithm. We also say that we relax the edges. What that means is that if I know the distance of a vertex, I am able to compute the distance of its neighbors. Right? So if the distance of a city, let's say Mumbai, is, let's say, how much will that be? Maybe 800 kilometer from Nagpur. Then from there, if there is some other city which is nearby, then I'll be able to figure out the distance by looking at Mumbai's distance and settling the distance of the nearby cities. So that could be, that is called as settling of distances. So pictorially, if I have been given a graph like this, and this is A is my source node, these are the distances which are available for different edges in this graph. It's a directed graph as far as I have shown, but in practice it is going to be an undirected graph because the trains go or the vehicles go in both directions. And once I know, let's say A's distance is going to be 0 from itself, and therefore B, C, D's distances are going to be 7, 3, 4 when I compute it initially. And then so on, I'm going to update the distances of different nodes. Let's say from B, I'm going to update the distances of E and F, and so on, depending upon the edge weights. So given such a graph in some form, right? So currently we are not bothered about whether it is given in CSR format or COO format or adjacency list and so on. I want you to think about what each thread will be doing. I want you to think about this code, and I would like you to write down the code that each thread is going to execute. Okay. Any suggestions on how this can be implemented? And if there are any issues that come up?
You can keep a shared variable for dist A and the corresponding node like dist B or something, and then if dist A plus the edge weight is less than dist C, then you can update dist C according to.
Right. So that what Chet is suggesting is that you have a distance array which keeps track of distances of different nodes. So if there are n nodes or n vertices in this graph, then the distance array is of n length. And if there is an edge from A to B, right, whose edge weight is, let's say, W, then if distance of A plus the edge weight W is less than the current distance of B, that is the destination node, then you update the distance of the destination. Right. So any other suggestions?
Sir, after updating, we need to parallelly check that the distance array is not changing for termination criteria, right?
Distance array. I mean, yeah, we need to check if we have reached the end of this algorithm, which means that we need to keep track of if we have reached some sort of a fixed point. That is, neither of the threads have updated any of the distances in a particular iteration. Right? In which case, we ensure that we have updated all the distances, and therefore there is a fixed point, which means that we have reached the end of the algorithm. And in fact, what Venkat probably is suggesting is that we'll require some sort of coordination across threads for this particular
Yeah. Yes, sir.
right. So I mean, only one thread is coming to know that we have reached the fixed point. In the sense, okay, let me put it this way. It's not that one thread is going to come to know. Individual thread might not know that we have reached a fixed. It's a global condition which is going to be there applicable across all the edges in the graph. And therefore, the individual thread cannot figure this out. And still collectively, we need to figure this out. Right? So therefore, there is some sort of synchronization which will require. So when one thread is operating on its neighbor, it finds that no updates are happening. But that doesn't mean that globally I have reached a fixed point. And same thing is happening for other threads. So how do you find out? Locally, you are not able to find out, but globally, you want to find out that we have reached a fixed point. So how should the coordination be? Any suggestions on how this can be implemented?
Sir, so in last class we talked about some reductions or something. I'm guessing that something of that sort can be used.
Sure, the reduction could be one way. What Prasood is also suggesting is that we could keep track of a flag which is set by each thread whenever there is an update of distance. And let's say that flag is initially false. And whenever some thread sees an update, it sets that flag to 1. Right? At the end of iteration, each thread checks that flag. If that flag is false, that means we have reached the end of the iteration, end of the algorithm, because no update has happened. If there is an update, then flag is going to be set to 1 at least by one thread. There could be more, but at least by one thread will be set to true. And therefore, just by using a flag, we'll be able to coordinate across different threads. It's just that multiple threads might write to the same flag, and therefore we might have to worry about synchronization. But it so happens that because of some reason, you can still make it atomic and it will work. Okay, so that is one part. Is there any other synchronization that we require in this algorithm?
The distance array needs to be synchronized.
So why is distance array required to be synchronized, Karthik?
So many threads can be updating the value at a particular point. So
okay, in this
updates need to be
example,
atomic.
right. In this example, can you show one case?
So the distance of C can be updated by node A and node D both simultaneously.
Right. So if there are threads, if you launch the kernel with n threads and they are operating on different vertices, you might be updating the distance of C possibly from A as well as possibly from D. If you go step by step or level by level, then this will not happen, but it can still happen when you have longer chains and C has 2 length path from A via some other node as well as via D. So in this case, C's distance is going to be updated via this path as well as this path, which means that in what kind of graphs you will not see such a problem.
So trees.
Right. Only because C has multiple parents, therefore this update is happening onto C. As soon as this each node has a single parent, then this problem is not going to occur, and that is going to happen in a tree, right? So each node has at max, in this case, this DAG, as well as there could be cycles, or we have actually assumed that this could be undirected graph, so that is also can have let's say cycles and so on. So in this case, we will require some synchronization while updating the distance of C. Why is that required? Is, let's say that I am updating the value of C from this side to, let's say, 3. right? And updating the value of C via the other side as, let's say, 7. Now, what should be the distance of C? We would like the distance of C to be 3, which is the minimum of the two. But if we do not follow any synchronization, then it's possible that the thread which is pushing the distance 7 might update it first, and the another thread which is pushing the distance 3 might update it later, in which case you are safe. The final value will be 3. But if it happens the other way around, that is, the update to distance 3 happens first and then the update of distance 7, then 3 is going to get overwritten by 7, and therefore it is going to cause an issue with respect to the actual distance update, right? So if we follow a processing something like this, that is, alternate distance is essentially distance of the source plus the edge weight is going to be less than the existing distance of the destination node, in this case C, then we update the distance of the destination node. This is going to cause an issue, and this is called as a lost update problem, where because of lack of synchronization we are updating it. The thread is updating the distance to 3, but we are losing that update. So so far, so let's get into what are the different synchronization
Hi, sir.
primitives. Hello.
It's just one doubt in the previous code. So
Yeah.
that as the distance array will always be converging. So suppose if we suppose we miss means one thread has been overwritten by some other thread, but in the next iteration it will be able to get the right result. So basically in this algorithm we don't need synchronization.
Very good. So that's a very good observation, and we will study this a little bit when we talk about case studies in graph algorithms. So there are different ways in which this can be implemented. As you can see, that we said initially that each thread is operating on each node, right? Which means that even if E and F are not really the nodes on which you should be operating in the first iteration, still I will assign some thread to it. Such a processing is called as topology driven processing, where each data item gets a corresponding thread, and that data item is getting processed. It will check that E and F's distances are infinity or not, and only then it will proceed, right? So therefore it will in these topology driven implementations, it is guaranteed that even if you avoid this synchronization, as suggested, it is still going to be updated in the next iteration. In typical topology driven implementations, you will keep track of a flag, and that flag will be set as soon as you update the value of C from the original value, let's say it was infinity, to 3 by that particular thread which is coming from A. And therefore another iteration will be required. In the next iteration, the thread which set the value to 7 will currently see the value 7 because it was overriding the value 3, and it will not update the distance of C, whereas the previous thread which was coming from A, that will see the value 7 now in the next iteration, and therefore update it back to 3. So although there might be multiple threads writing to C, at least one of them will succeed, and in the worst case it can go into the reverse order of in the sortedness of these values, and those many iterations might be required. So you might require more number of iterations than what you will require if you have a synchronization, but it is guaranteed that it will compute exactly. Only the vertices which have some distance update, only for them I am launching the threads. And how does one do that in general in case of graph algorithms? Right. So what Prasun suggests is that you can have something called as a work list. using which you will be able to take care of push exactly the nodes where the update has happened. So let's say from A, I updated the distances of B, C, and D. Then B, C, and D are going to be pushed to the work list. No other vertex is going to be in the work list, and threads are going to pick up these nodes and operate on their neighbors. In work list based implementation, then you can have an issue where this lost update problem can occur. And as one of the optimizations of this, we will see exactly what Prasun had suggested, that you might want to just go ahead and not worry about synchronization. It will require more number of iterations, but it might, I mean, this is a trade-off, right? The individual iteration might become little lighter because you are avoiding synchronization, but the number of iterations is increasing. So there is some trade-off involved between these. So we'll come back to this a little later in the course. That was a very good observation. Then I think Mrinalini is suggesting, I didn't understand why there is a lost update in the code. So let me explain that a little. From D to C, there is a distance update of 7. That is one thread wants to do. And from A to C, then let's say there is distance update of 3 for some reason. If A to C thread writes first, if there is no synchronization while writing to C's distance, if A to C thread writes first and updates the distance to 3, and D to C happens, so essentially what I am talking about is this code. So this checking of alternate distance less than distance of n. Distance of n is distance of C in this case, which initially might be infinity. So if both the threads have this check done simultaneously, then both of them will see that alternate distance 3 is less than infinity and alternate distance 7 is also less than infinity. This is happening in parallel. So some of you were suggesting that oh, why are we thinking about this flag being set one after the other and checking being done by at the other time. At that time we had to do it because there was one single update and one single read, and that flag was a single variable. But now we are back to the concurrent setting, right? So this alt distance less than distance of n might be true for multiple threads, multiple parents of C at the same time, and therefore all of them might come into the if part of their individual codes. And A's thread will update distance of C to 3, and after that the thread from D will update the distance of C to 7, and therefore distance of 3 might get overwritten without any synchronization with the value 7, larger value 7, which is wrong. Any other? Okay, there is some question. Cycles in the graph can cause termination issues while checking convergence. Okay, so this actually gets taken care of by the algorithm itself. The parallelization does not add anything to it, but essentially what we need to just check is the distance of the destination node. If it is smaller, if it is larger than the alternate distance via the current source. So in this case, as long as that is happening, even if you have cycles and no negative weightages, then it does not create any problem. Any other concerns here? Any other questions?
Sure, instead of maintaining the neighbors over here, we can just maintain the parents over here, and then synchronization issues can be avoided directly, right?
Okay, so that's also an interesting approach. So is it possible that a thread is, instead of pushing the information to neighbors, it pulls the information from the parents and updates the distance of this node? What is the advantage of this approach?
You don't have to worry about updating disk C, right? Like we are worrying about right now, because everything will be updated in the loop in a sequential fashion.
Right. So there is an important point here. So I mean, we are all probably discussing this much earlier than we should, but anyway, nevertheless, since it has come up, I'll discuss that now. So when we are pushing the distances to the neighbors, then it is possible that C might have 2 parents, and therefore we require synchronization. Imagine now that each thread is also again operating on one node, but instead of pushing the distances to the neighbors, it is pulling the distances from the parents and updating the distance of the current node. If that happens, each node's distance is going to be updated by exactly one thread. Right? So let's understand this. Each node's distance is going to be updated by exactly one thread, and therefore we may not require any synchronization as such. Right? Why did I say may not? Any caveat that we have missed in this case, in this pull based implementation versus push based? Okay. So
Sir,
when we are,
when
yeah,
we are, sir, when we are even when we are pulling, let's suppose for node C, I'm taking from A and D, but A itself, D itself might be pulling from A, right? So that time it might be updating. So we
that is
need something.
yes. So when I am updating the distance of C, I am reading the distances from A and D. And the threads which are assigned to A and D might be writing to that same memory location because of their parents. In this case, there is a read from C as well as a write from D's thread to the same memory location, and therefore there is a possibility of a data race. Thankfully, like what happened in flags case in the previous class, this is a primitive type like integer or character, and therefore the hardware is going to make sure that these readings and writings are atomic, and therefore it doesn't cause a problem. But if there would have been some structure which needs to be read and written to, then there will be some issues that will start coming up. For example, in this case, if we are not only updating the distance, but we are also updating the parent, that from whom I have gotten this shortest distance, right? So C has gotten shortest distance from, let's say, A and not D. I would like to keep track that C's parent is now A. This short, because I want to reconstruct the shortest path also. I don't want only the distances. I want to reconstruct the shortest path. In that case, it becomes a little more challenging, and there more synchronization issues might come up. If it is single distance, which is going to be a single, let's say, integer or floating point or double, that is not going to cause any problem in this case. Good. That was a very good discussion. Any other suggestions? All right. So please kind of recall, I mean, keep track of these thoughts at the back of your
Sir,
mind.
just one doubt. Sir, in the first approach, is there a possibility that a lost update may lead to a false termination?
If you are using a topology driven implementation where a thread is assigned to each vertex and you are going iteration by iteration, no, there is no possibility that because of lost update you will get a wrong value. But if you are maintaining this work list, then there is a possibility that lost update will cause termination condition to be falsely reached rather than the actual correct value. So that is possible. And
Okay, sir. Thank you.
yeah, and it's not specific to shortest path algorithm. It's also possible in many other algorithms, not only graph algorithms, but even in other, let's say, dense matrix computations. You will have threads assigned to different rows or different columns or different elements. But if you are using a sparse matrix, which is essentially a graph, by the way, you might keep track of these individual elements explicitly, because most of the entries in a row are 0. So let me keep track of exactly the elements which are non-zero. In that case, if you keep track of them separately, those are essentially different work lists on which you will be operating, then again you are going to face this trouble. So this is a more generic thing which we should be aware of, but we'll probably get into this a little later. But in case it happens in your case, in your research, etc., just keep this in mind. All right, so we'll okay, we probably did maybe 2 slides today. Sorry about that, and we'll discuss about the actual synchronization requirements that we have had that we need to worry about in the next class. But nevertheless, this was a very useful discussion. Some of you might find it a little boring, but that is how our discussions are going to be, where I will say something and then we'll keep discussing about different ways in which it can be implemented. So we'll stop here. If there are any questions, we can take those up now. Can we use any synchronization or atomics in the assignment?